I'm going to turn my phone off, and if anybody wants to take the chance to do the same thing, wouldn't hurt my feelings. At a minimum, if everybody would mute their phone. There we go. I love it. Gently. Jerry used to bang it really hard. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Woodfin's regular monthly town council meeting. This is Tuesday, June 17th. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to start on time. I want to welcome everybody in the audience and those watching us online. I'll note for the public that we have a vacant seat on the dais, resulting from council's decision not to fill the vacancy. Our quorum for us is now 3, and we meet that requirement. And for council members, as well as our guests tonight, when you speak, try to aim it at a microphone. I listened to last month, and if you weren't speaking into a microphone, it simply didn't pick it up. So let's help each other remember to do that. We have a healthy agenda tonight, so are you in agreement with it? Are there any motions to make any changes to it? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's 5-0. 5-0. The consent agenda is next. There are more items on this consent agenda than usual. So if you have any questions or concerns, especially on item number 6, speak up now. If there aren't any, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. We now move into the public comment section. Did you have a list, Madam Clerk? We can do it easy. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for up to 3 minutes on the topic of your choice? I'll give the chance if anybody happens to. Okay, very good. Presentations and report. We're moving quickly, Shannon. Town manager report, fresh off an airplane, Shannon Tuck. Welcome back.
Thank you. And I will be quick in my report. So beginning all of our reports lately, we start with an update about our Tropical Storm Helene recovery. As we progress in our recovery efforts, I anticipate that this portion of my update will get smaller and smaller, and this month it is. In some cases because we're advancing and things are being resolved, but in other cases just because we're in a particular point in different recovery initiatives that there isn't any new activity or any new information. So that is the case this month. Our public assistance applications for our parks continue to be in process. There isn't any really new things to report on that. We're waiting for some permitting and contracting or construction documents, and we're waiting for some additional information from our contractors. So we're still kind of in a holding pattern there. Roads and culverts engineering work.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely, if she'll allow it.
The applications, have we put out bids for repairs, or are we waiting on FEMA, or where are we?
So we can't put out bids until we get to a certain point in the process. And we're a little bit farther along with Silverline Park, and we are waiting to get construction drawings and permits before we go to bid. So we are moving along in the process, but no, we have not put anything out to bid yet.
So do we have to wait on word back from FEMA as to what we may receive before we can do that?
It's not quite like that. It's a little bit hard to explain. It has more to do with needing more information regarding cost estimates and how much we can expect in terms of FEMA funding. And we need these cost estimates in order to revise their estimates for the reimbursement. And so that's kind of where we are at this point.
Part of the reason for the question, we get queried a lot. The number one question I get is, when will Silverline Park open? I was over there today, and with a good weed whacking and a trash pickup, it can almost be open. Are we reluctant to do that until
the only reason Silverline Park, I think, is not open at this stage is that we were anticipating that debris removal operations in the French Broad River were going to be in high gear at this point. And so we didn't want to open the park for a week and then close it again while debris operations occurred, because Silverline Park is going to be used as one of the interim staging areas for debris work. So we can't really have members of the public there while big trucks and debris are being hauled
that's
in.
yet to come?
And that's yet to come. We expected that to be underway at at this point, and it's not. So we're waiting to transition debris removal to the state of North Carolina through their SMART program. And that was supposed to have occurred by now, but for reasons that I can share with council later, it hasn't occurred yet. So we're hoping that that will be resolved. I spoke with one of the state agency representatives earlier and have a better understanding of why that is. And so hopefully we'll get that resolved soon. So.
Since we've got so many followers to the town's website and especially Facebook, could you put a notice of some kind?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
People are really asking when.
Yeah.
I think an explanation would really help.
Yeah.
And so there's no chance that Riverside Park could be open for
Well,
people
I was
to walk?
actually in Riverside Park today, and I think we can explore reopening Riverside Park because the biggest concern was the sloughed walking trail. And now that the bank stabilization work has been completed and that area has kind of been restored and leveled, and some of that walking trail has just literally been removed. So I don't think we have the same worry about people tripping or anything like that.
Are
So
those bathrooms functional?
No.
No.
no, not at all.
Really?
So yeah, it would just be sort of open for passive walking. And
That's what I think people are really anxious, get out and walk the dogs too.
And
It-
a lot
it-
of our older population use that park.
yeah, it would be good for walking. All of our picnic facilities are gone now, so none of that's available. Restrooms are not available, but just for a little walk with your dog or with a family member, that would be fine, I think. So hopefully, yeah, we can make some progress there.
Put a sign showing off the shoreline restoration. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Thank you. Any other questions at this point?
Yes.
Please.
So roads and culverts engineering work is underway. So when we get those engineering drawings, then we can, and get the permits, then we can put those out to bid. So I think that's actually going to happen before the parks, more than likely. So, but hopefully in short order, all of those. We are, as I mentioned earlier, waiting to transition to the state's SMART program for debris removal. And the recovery plan project development is progressing. Staff has refined that project list and should be sharing that with the county soon. And if there aren't any other questions about recovery, I'll move on. So in the administration department, we always report on contracts that have come in the last month, and we have not had any. Again, I think I had the same report last month, and that's not too unusual at this stage as we are closing one budget year and getting ready to open another budget year. Our town hall beautification day is set for July 1st. We have now kind of extended that. So the staff is going to do some work on July 1st. We're going to close the office and do some sprucing up. And we're going to do a lot of prepping for some painting. So we're going to have some painters come in later in the week and just kind of paint our common areas. So we're excited to get some of that work done. You may have noticed some of the lobby changes. There's just, sometimes it's amazing.
That's a huge improvement.
Yeah, just sometimes it doesn't take a lot and doesn't cost a lot to just make some
Thank you,
simple
Sherry.
improvements. And then the council subcommittees have also been active. We've had, I think, 2 meetings with the communications committee, and I think the water committee met for the first time a couple weeks ago. And so things are progressing nicely on that front. And then, of course, we're going to be hearing later tonight about adopting the budget. For planning and public works, first with the planning department, the big news this week is we're having our code update kickoff. It's going to be 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday this week. I know Thursday is a holiday, but planning staff and I will be working with our consultants, meeting with a lot of our steering committee, but also our stakeholder groups. And so we're going to be really busy for the next couple days with that. Other activities are planned too. We're going to be touring with the consultants and doing some other work with the consultants while they're here in town. This will be one of the few visits where they're actually physically here. So we want to take advantage of the time that we have together with them. The Altura CZ, which I reported last month, was anticipated to come to council in July, has been delayed. I think while the applicant tries to figure out if they want to amend the application or how they want to proceed, or if they don't want to proceed. But that is not coming to council in July now, so I will keep you updated as that evolves. The Woodfin to Weaverville Greenway feasibility hold has been lifted, so that work is now restarted. So we're excited to get that news, and we're looking forward to getting that completed. And then the walk bike Woodfin draft plan is done, and it's in review, and there will be a presentation to the council next month on that. And then for Public Works, not huge news. I think I reported last month that some of the brush collection has restarted. Mowing has also restarted for along some of our roadways and some of our facilities. So our staff are kind of out there busy doing a lot of different things and not just trash collection these days. And we are discussing the bulky item pickup dates. We have not established those yet. We typically do one in the spring and one in the fall. So it will probably stick to that time frame. But as soon as we get those dates figured out, we'll be publishing that and trying to kind of get the word out so people are aware.
And that'll be the one that's at no charge.
Correct.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And then for stormwater, we completed all the catch basin cleaning. They use these really interesting vacuums and they literally sort of suck out the catch basins. I think there's a little other work that occurs in the process, but that was, we were happy to get that work done. It was a long time coming and we can check that off our list. Riverside Park expansion and Silverline Park, no real big updates on those. As I mentioned earlier, the rivers for Silverline Park, we're just waiting for the permit set and the bid documents to be developed. And then for Riverside Park expansion, that's our active construction project. The drilling, I was there earlier today, the drilling continues, but it's progressing as they expected, and so that's good news, but nothing really new to report yet. When that drilling gets largely completed and they're getting ready to start placing boulders, the engineers are going to come back into town and work with the contractor because I think once those first few boulders get set, it gets much easier after that. So, so we're anticipating another visit by our engineers. Geneva Maney Community Garden, they had their work day, I think their first Saturday work day, and from what I hear, it went very well. So they're planning more Saturday work days through the month of June. And then Roy Pope Park, unfortunately, we are still working on the replacement parts for the play structure. So if we can't get that resolved soon, I think we're going to have to try to come up with some sort of plan B. So I'm not sure what that is yet, but we're going to keep at it. For the police department, I'm happy to report that Officer Jamie McCandless has been named as our new acting sergeant. And so we're really excited to have Jamie advance in that role, and we look forward to working with her.
Why acting? Curious.
Because she doesn't meet all of the current qualifications to be named sergeant. And so this also gives her an opportunity to kind of decide if it's really a position she wants to move forward with. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah. And then we continue our recruitment efforts for police officers. So we still have the 2 remaining police officer positions, and that work is continuing, and we are making good progress. So things are feeling optimistic that we may have some good news this summer. Our SRO is scheduled to receive some school-based training, some specialized school-based training through the Sheriff's Department in July. So we're getting she's doing field training right now, and then in July she'll be doing the specialized training, getting her ready to kind of jump into things with the new school year.
And would you remind everybody who's funding it and what her time will be divided, how that's going to work?
So she will be a full-time SRO, but when school is not in session, she is a member of the Woodfin Police Department. So she will assist with other responsibilities, so she can serve as a backup during holiday season or summer breaks or, whenever on weekends, if she wants to get some overtime, that sort of thing. But her primary responsibility is working with the school as the SRO. So that's her first and foremost responsibility. And this position is funded through the Buncombe County Schools largely. It's a shared funding through the schools and the town of Woodfin. And then lastly, police department, our Chief Boykin is preparing to submit a grant application that would, if approved, would support programs for both the accreditation with the state of North Carolina, which is a very ambitious thing that we've been very interested in for a while. So we're really excited to see her try to push that along. And then also risk management through the North Carolina League of Municipalities. So it's one grant application for 2 different programs. And that concludes my manager's update. Be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Do you have an update on the North Carolina SRF revolving loan program? I know
Oh,
you were-
We submitted, a pre-application. I have not had any, other than a confirmation that the application was received, I have not had any follow-up, but I did
That's the
hear,
application or the letter of intent?
they call it a pre-application.
Pre-application.
Yeah. And so they received the pre-application. So the next step, if we're favorably received, would be they would invite us to submit a full application. And I have not received that information yet. I did get confirmation that they received the pre-application, but we have not received the invitation. But I know that nobody has received that yet. And so I think I heard an update recently that it was just sort of a group update in a different context that they were expecting to do that, I think in July is what I remember.
Actually, meeting.
July
Betsy and I
1st, yeah.
attended in April as well,
Yeah.
With some folks from Woodfin Water and the partner engineering firm, which was when you were
Mhm.
brought. One of the things I heard was, yes, they're the pre-application, but the word for North Carolina is that almost all pre-applications will be encouraged to apply, that it wasn't seen as a weeding out process, and that it may be that early July is when applications are due, and June 20th may be the date by which you would hear back about your pre-application, which is a very short timeline. I know that we talked about whether or not a survey could be done, and so I'm partly asking, so we're waiting to hear back on that pre-application status before we take any next steps.
Oh, yeah, no, not necessarily. So
Okay.
the survey, I think we're preparing to send that out. And
That's the draft was circulated then.
I'm planning to send it out Friday.
And I was this week, I had on my to-do list to reach out to the engineering firm too, to talk about preparing for a full application. So because they did the engineering work with the 2020 application, I think it makes sense to consider contracting with them as well for this full application.
And I just want to reiterate one point that we mentioned at this meeting, but since you weren't there, I was under the mistaken impression that connecting a house to a water line was a relatively inexpensive proposition, and people at this meeting disabused me of that. and said,
Yes.
It could be 4,000 to 14,000 based
Yes.
on the geology.
The
and
distance, yeah.
And that means that any proposal we make, if it's allowed, if the criteria allow, might include a needs-based reimbursement of connection fees. I just wanted to mention.
Well, they made it clear in the workshop for those applications that private lines can be included in the grant application. So we could potentially receive funding for not just the public water line extension, but to actually connect people to that public line.
That's
So,
good news. And I realize there are no guarantees.
Yeah, yeah.
But that is good news.
And I think the other thing that I found really interesting is they told us we would not know what the criteria would be until July 1st, as to what we needed to put in our application too. So the timing was really askew on
Mhm.
this too.
Yeah. We will do our best though.
Other questions?
No.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do something a little bit different tonight within our new business. I'd like to welcome the board of the Woodfin ABC store, who are going to have a special meeting tonight. Literally inside of this council meeting is part of our new business. Jackie Craig is the chair of that board. Bob Sturr and Connie Wald are the other two members. They're with us. And Ms. Craig, if you would come to the podium and bring your meeting to order, and if you would, including making sure that your board is okay with the question and answer session that will follow your report, which will be first.
Okay.
And if not now, during the Q&A, we have asked them to stand around the podium because, as our fabulous clerk reminds me, unless you get in front of those microphones, she can't capture it. She can't do minutes. So welcome. We're glad you're here.
And we're going to call our meeting to order at 5:18. And I guess we're ready for the questions and answers.
Well, we thought first,
I have some of the answers to the questions you already put forth.
did you have a presentation, though, in general,
I-
prepared first or not?
Just the answers to some of the
Okay.
questions.
Can I ask a question about
Hang
that?
on, Gina, can those questions go on the screen? They were in the packet. Some of them are not. If they're not, we can work with it.
And if we want to
If
just
not,
do,
Maybe we can just read the question aloud.
Yes, we
No,
can
I
do
have-
that.
I can pull them up if you want me to.
If you could pull them up, it'd be great.
Sorry, excuse me.
So everybody in the audience can see them and it'll make it easier on them, I think.
Jim?
Yes,
Before we get
go ahead.
quick Q&A, I do have a question. I was under the impression, perhaps mistaken, that in the June council meeting is when the ABC board presents their budget for the upcoming year, not for our review or approval, but makes a presentation. Am I wrong about that?
It's not a presentation on the budget. It's usually just a presentation kind of reflecting over the past year, like we had this much in sales, this much,
It has included how much the budget is,
Yeah,
expenditures
it
and
would
income.
include some general information about the budget, but the statutory requirement is
Sorry
usually
about this,
satisfied by them just sharing a copy. of
We're
the
gonna
budget
put some
with us.
in the board, though.
how do we get
We
you?
will, that'll be a question you can ask
So,
in this
and
session.
our budget was submitted yesterday, and the town of Woodfin should have received it today. Our financial officer submitted it.
We did, so we received it this morning. The ABC board, just for the public's benefit, might be helpful to know that the ABC board's meeting is always the Monday before the council's Tuesday meeting. So we typically receive that month's information in the morning of our council meeting. And so it's not, we don't get it in time to
Right.
put it
Okay.
with that
Right.
council
Right.
packet. So it usually goes in the following.
So will you distribute that to us
Yeah,
just
but
for a
because
look
it's a
see?
budget, we'll be sending you the copy.
Okay.
If I may, Councilwoman Irvin and I put this on the agenda, so let me just say a couple of things before we start with the questions. First off, really happy to have you all here. We all very interested in being transparent with our constituents, and everything we can do to make that happen is good. This is a great opportunity for us to all be working from the same set of facts. And also, we're just interested in your business. It's kind of a cool business. You contribute to the town's coffers, and we're interested about your plans to the extent, although we have no statutory responsibility with you other than the board appointments. We just were curious about what you're doing, what your plans are, and if there are ways that we can help, that's great. And from a process standpoint, you're already way ahead of me because we're going to go through the questions, and that's what we want to
Council,
do.
like, I could provide a quick overview of where we are for this current fiscal year.
Please, would you go to the podium? Thank you,
Yeah.
Bob.
So just to review on a very high level, through the end of May, we have 2.277 million in sales. That is down 2% versus the same period in fiscal year 2024. Most of that could be attributed to, or a portion of it attributed to a loss of wine and mixer sales with the opening of the state to allow establishments to buy liquor from any ABC board in the county. We've had one of our 3 customers has decided to buy from Weaverville. So those sales have been down about 11% for the year. Retail liquor sales is down about 1.8%. Cost of goods and gross profit, the state takes about 50% in taxes, and cost of goods is generally 25%, so it leaves us with 25% of revenues to cover our expenses and provide distributions to the town and police and to the alcohol rehab facility that we support. Our expenses for the year are actually down 7.8%. Part of that's payroll. We lost some full-time employees and have replaced them with lower-priced part-time employees. We've also generated income from capital trust account where we have, in prior years, we had all of our assets in a local savings bank that generated no interest income. We've generated $8,633 so far this year in income from that side. And year to date, we've distributed $7,500 to alcohol education and rehab, $60,000 to the town, and $4,500 to law enforcement. And Our net income, after all, is just under $9,000 for the year. And that is actually an improvement over last year based on the change in expenses. At this point last year, we were operating at a loss of about $9,400.
Okay, thank you, sir. So Betsy, if you and Ken would, the questions are on the screen, and we're all friends here. Just take us through it and let's talk about them.
We can read them off the screen. I also wanted to mention, I understand you were able to appoint or make a recommendation in terms of the board appointments, which we'll see probably in July. So congratulations on that. We look forward to seeing that. We're interested in what you see for the opportunities for the store for the next couple of years. Obviously, the landscape has shifted a little bit, both from a social standpoint and from a regulatory standpoint, perhaps. So we want to know what's on your minds and what you think the challenges are, and if you have any specific plans that you'd be happy to share.
So some of the obstacles that we see so far are the tariffs that are coming, and that younger people prefer to have alcohol-free beverages. And because we sell alcohol beverages, we can't sell alcohol-free at our store. And they also have been moving towards hemp-based products.
Mm-hmm.
And the state of North Carolina is moving towards controlling hemp-based products. And we only have 3 mixed beverage outlets in Woodfin, and one of them's buying from Weaverville. And if we could get more restaurants, it would be nice. I know we've gotten some new restaurants up in Reynolds Village. And overall tourism is down in Buncombe County. And Tammy, our store manager, said that a lot of tourists come in there and buy like canned beverages, which is like High Noon, Mom Water.
Mm-hmm.
And we had ordered today a cooler to put that in because they would prefer the beverages to be cool when they buy them. And I know one of the questions had to do with the performance audit that happened in February of 2023. And we sent a letter to Mr. Woolard in April of 2023, and we completed all his suggestions by April of that year.
Great.
And a problem that we have now is retention of employees, and we're looking for some new employees. And if you know anybody that wants to get a job with state benefits, it's a great place to work, and Tammy would be happy to take the application.
What do you start someone at in ballpark?
At $18 an
Or
hour
part-time employee.
for part-time.
Are you only going to hire in the future part-time moving forward, probably?
We typically have 2 to 3 full-time employees, including the managed store manager.
And they get health insurance through the state?
And they get
program?
health
The
insurance.
full-time employees.
Full-time employees.
And we lost one full-time employee this month. He's going to go be a skateboarding person.
Well,
Promote himself.
He's very young.
Yeah.
I have a question. On a lark, I had to go to Greenville to renew my TSA pre-check, and I swung through, somebody told me there's a giant liquor store there, and I went. They had an entire wall of THC-infused beverages. What's North Carolina, where's our state in deciding what to do about that?
So right now, we've bought a case of hemp-infused vodka, and we've had it a month, and we've sold 4 bottles. And so far, we haven't got any reports back from people that bought them.
Is there a sign saying that?
No, it's on an end cap. So when you go in, it says hemp-based. And I think it's even moved over to the counter in front of where you're paying.
Not that I would buy it, but I didn't know you had it.
It's right on the cash register.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are good things about it. But a lot of the other types of beverages that have been infused are sold at the hemp stores and the CBD stores here in town.
But they can't sell them with alcohol in
They
them.
can't sell with alcohol now. It's purely a hemp infused beverage without alcohol.
But in
And
this store
other
in South-
states can just serve hemp-based, and we can only sell alcohol.
But I know it wasn't exactly true, but the store in South Carolina, giant signs, THC, 10%. It was actually amazing to see.
It's a huge growth.
That's the future.
business,
Yeah.
And something that we should absolutely explore.
But we're not allowed to advertise, correct?
We are not allowed to
That's what I
advertise.
thought. We are not allowed.
We don't
to
set our
advertise.
prices, and we don't
But there-
advertise.
There's a big difference between promotion and education. And we are allowed to educate. and we are exploring opportunities to do that. For example, other stores.
Microphone.
Yeah,
Exactly.
come up.
Yeah. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Jackie.
For example, other stores in the ABC area print on their bags that there's a certain percentage of their purchase that would go to that town. So we could put on our bags or put a coupon in each bag that says a certain percentage of the sales you bought today would go to Woodfin. And one of the things that I would very much like you to consider is that is a very wide open statement. This money goes to the town council. It would be much easier for us to identify a cause. Something that we could say your money will be going towards, I can make it up, school computers. It's not my recommendation, but my recommendation is to consider advancing the education of the town, because the few things that I've done, which was send some editorials to the papers, I've received amazing feedback from people saying, I had no idea we benefited from purchasing in this particular store. Okay.
Very interesting.
The other thing that I feel strongly about, which I think is a fair thing to consider, is that if you're doing business as a bar in Woodfin, you should be buying from Woodfin. And the fact that that chunk of money went to Weaverville as just a chance to roll in and get what they say is a better allocation, but when we reviewed it, it was a few extra bottles of expensive bourbon. That we should not lose that money. And I think that we, as bars open, we have to make it clear that if you're going to do business in Woodfin, you should purchase from Woodfin. We would be flat sales if we had not lost that money.
Do you get advance notice that somebody's applied? Like in Reynolds Village, there's construction of some kind happening.
Yes, there's something going on at the bottom of the hill. We just noticed it coming here.
But y'all don't find out about what it's going to be until they open?
Correct.
Until they get a license.
And didn't,
Yesterday, we were talking about where La Coretta was. It's gonna be a sushi bar. If they have
Yeah.
mixed beverages, we were thinking about, instead of driving all the way to Asheville, you could just drive to Woodfin.
and didn't understand also that when we lost Saltfish Mule, Asheville lost Twisted Laurel as
They did.
well.
Yes, they did. They are.
Everybody, they took all of them to
Yes,
Weaverville.
yes.
So we weren't the only ones who took a hit.
Yes,
Asheville
Which
yes.
is, which is actually very interesting, because
Yeah.
one of their supposed complaints was that they weren't getting enough of the allocated liquor, like the Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, and when we
and
reviewed it,
Weaverville
it's,
doesn't get appreciably more than we do, even though they have twice the sales. But Asheville gets a lot.
Could that be based on a relationship between somebody at that company?
I called Greg Stallings today. I can tell you what it's based on. The allocations, they have to,
Who's Greg Stallings at the state?
he is the,
He's the director of product.
And
at the
pricing
state
for-
commission.
State.
so there's two methods for equitable distribution. The first one is limited distribution. And his example was, if the state of North Carolina gets 125 cases of a bourbon a month. And so the commission gets together and says, everyone can have one case. So the first 125 people to order get one case. And there's 171 ABC boards in North Carolina, so the rest of them get zero. And the other one's called equitable distribution. And it's based on your sales volume of the state boards. The board's allocations are based on their sales revenue for the previous fiscal year. And he said, Mecklenburg and Wake County are making out and the rest of us aren't. He said they have over 1 million people in their population and that they get the best allocations.
Question.
So have you thought of ways to enhance our store's allocation? Because how is Weaverville able to get these shipments and
They get-
Woodfin is not?
They get the same shipments we do. They get a little bit more quantity,
because they have
Why
more
is that?
sales.
Because their sales are double ours.
And that's why they get Buffalo Trace and you don't.
Well, we
For
do,
example.
we
We
both do.
Both do.
And I think I
Just get more.
don't know if I sent a report, sent any information to the town, but we did an analysis of May's allocation between Weaverville and Woodfin, and of the liquors that were equitably distributed, which is what most of what we're talking about, be the Buffalo Traces, Eagle Rares, and other short-handed bourbon. They got 22 cases, we got 15, even though their sales are twice ours. So I think we got more than our share of allocated liquor based on sales volumes.
So the allocation part, I'm sorry, Betsy.
No, you go right
Um,
ahead.
So the first way you spoke of was there's 125 and there's 171 or whatever. How is it that how is one able to get that allocation?
And he said that like Woodfin has an advantage if they're going to give one case to an ABC board, because Mecklenburg has no use for one case of liquor, none. And neither does Wake County. We're Woodfin in the smaller boards. We have one store, we get a case of it, and we're just like joyful, but they wouldn't know what to do with it.
And the other criteria is that the sales store manager orders it. She does every month.
Is there like a timeline, like everything comes out on the
window
first of,
opens.
the window opens at 12:59 on Tuesday afternoon, and you have to hit send on the computer to order it? Or is there like
It's
what-
allotments. This is like what they're allowed to order
yeah, but
each month.
Hang on a sec.
but I'm asking about the timing of the order.
And
think
they
it's the
order, well, I don't know when
We
they
have to ask the
orders.
store manager. We haven't been deep in the mechanics. We just-
Because I know often like you go Ticketmaster and you have to buy your tickets,
No.
everything
All
opens
we
up at one
got
time,
was
and
one of those.
you have to do it in that short window
Just the
or
check
you're out of
Just the
luck.
check mark.
Is that the kind of
I don't
situation?
think there's any question that this is a relationship business.
Yeah.
And I think we could improve the relationship.
That's the impression I got from
It
it.
has nothing to do with,
Yeah,
it.
Because even
first
the
come, first serve.
allocations, the manager will not receive 100% of what she orders.
Right.
She gets a percentage.
I disagree.
So-
I don't think it has anything to do with relationships.
Yeah, I don't either.
Between our store and the ABC commission.
Well, all
It's
things being,
purely based on what.
First come, first serve.
What,
Well, that's what I'm
That's
asking
what
is,
Johanna's
that's what
getting
I'm asking is the first come first. Where's the priority for us to say on every Tuesday at 12:58, we're sitting at the computer getting ready to push
We
send.
can-
I know
Or
that's
I
not
will
the
let,
way it
I could
is,
let
but-
Shannon know by next
we can get
month.
an answer for you, but
Okay,
the
that would
bottom
be
line
great
is,
to know.
for those types of liquors, it's not gonna make a material difference in our sales, because there aren't enough of those cases to make it a material difference.
Yeah, but if you sell like 4 this year, and I know these numbers are not accurate, but if you have people come, oh, well, you have this, and all 4 get bought, the next year you can, or
No,
next
it's-
month you
no.
can do
It doesn't
5.
work, it works on total volume, total sales volume, not of the individual
Okay.
products.
And North Carolina's allocated cases of it.
Uh-huh.
They don't get an unlimited amount of what they ask for. Like if they're allocated 125 cases that month, that's for the whole month. And we order every
That's-
week, and they were telling us last month that Woodfin orders 300 cases a week, and they get 200.
Mhm.
And they were using Louisville as an example. They order 400 cases a week, and they get 300. So, yeah, they're cutting out a whole lot of what you're ordering.
And this information here, a couple of things. This is of the
Tell us what you're
higher
looking at.
end. These are product allocation items for the Woodfin store. These are all we're able of the higher end things to ask for. And this is for April and May. And of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things we asked for, we got 3 one month. And in May, we got 1 case. And what I didn't realize in a lot of these, a case is 3 bottles. It's not
I didn't
what
realize
I
that either.
consider a case to be.
3
It is 3 bottles. And in our store, I've noticed that there's a statement there that says one per customer
It depends on the
because there are
product.
only 3 that come in. That surprised me.
So to increase the allotment, you have to increase the sales
Of the store,
Of the
store.
equitable
So that's
distribution.
Yes.
the gross
Yes.
sales, yeah.
the gross sales. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So just to underline
Phil first.
what Johanna
No,
was
that's fine.
asking, I believe what I just heard is there's not a window, that first method, not the sales and application, but that first method, there's not a window. 12 noon, February 1st, window opens for requests, first come, first served. Because if there is, it seems to me the manager would want to be pressing a button when that window opens. I mean, I understand that you may not know that now, but I can understand also that that would be a good thing to do.
The manager has worked for the ABC system for over 30 years. She worked in Nashville before she came to Woodfin, and she worked in the store before she became the manager of the store. So she knows the system very well.
But I understand that you'll.
We'll let you know.
That's good.
We'll respond, we'll give you an answer on that.
Ken?
Yeah. So I like what you said, Connie, about education and promotion. So 2 questions. One, do you have any other things that you're considering doing that you think will help with either building volume, sales volume in the store, and or relationships to get some of the mixed use, the mixed beverages? And
My retail background is working all the time. I've got ideas all the time.
well,
But I'm trying to process it slowly because there is a concern. There is a definition between promotion and education.
Absolutely.
Do you mind speaking into the
Sure.
microphone just so we can make sure we.
There is a definition between promotion and education. And I can find ways to identify education on many levels, but we have a staff and they have to feel comfortable doing what they're doing. And I think that if we walk slowly with 3 or 4 ideas and we can get some traction, we can come up with things that are a bit more aggressive. These first steps aren't as aggressive as I would like them to be, but certainly I think that they're going in the right way. That if we could start to say, to make the community aware that stopping at that store benefits the community versus stopping at the Asheville store, will go a long way to help our sales.
Is that something we could put on our website or on social media?
I would, yes, you can. And that would be terrific.
You're
And
kind
I'm
of-
happy to help with the editorial comment.
You're stealing my second question, which was, even though we have pretty strict statutory boundaries
North
between
Carolina.
what we do, and you don't have to answer this now, but I'm curious what the town can do that will help you along the way. I mean, that's an example. If it goes on the website.
It's
but-
awareness.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and
love to
that's
keep-
why I
keep
was
the
asking
conversation going.
if you could identify a program that will help
Mhm.
with editorial copy that's saying, we don't know where the $80,000 goes that comes here as a result of our sales. I'm sure Pardon?
Are there any restrictions on, obviously there are some restrictions, are there
Right.
restrictions on what kind of programs we can say, okay,
No, I mean, we need the most warm and fuzzy for the customer in the town.
I mean, that obviously is a stronger marketing message.
Right.
You guys have we turn funds over to you, you have discretion to use the funds however you want.
And we
Right.
can only give them to the general fund.
right.
The state of North
You
Carolina
can-
says
you
that's
can-
it.
But if we channel them, you
Right.
could.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Are you allowed to do a roundup program at the cash register?
What does that mean?
A roundup is
Go to
mean
the
if the
store,
bill
do a
is
roundup for
$1.05,
$2
you round up to $2.
I wouldn't think so in North Carolina.
I'd be surprised. I
I
don't know the answer.
It's
They used to have a thing where they would sell the boxes for people moving.
I'm on the board
Like
of
for
a
a
charity,
dime.
and that's a huge game being played nationally. Will you
Yes.
ask?
Sure.
Yes,
Can you ask
yes,
about that?
Yeah.
sure.
Because that could be an interesting twist to another crazy idea.
Well, again, but in addition, to round up to what? What am I
To
getting
hold
for
up.
that?
Round
So
up to
we
the
need
next
to
one.
have it, we need to
I
have
understand.
a program.
If putting a sign in your window, we have THC vodka, is that promotion or education?
That's hemp. We don't, it won't say
But what if,
THC.
I thought you said you had some vodka.
We have hemp vodka.
That's what I mean.
Confused.
But hemp
They're
Yes.
has
confused.
Yes,
has THC in it.
Yes.
That's what
No
it's
teachers.
out
And,
there.
and there is a curiosity about increasing that business.
I understand.
Do you have a
Um,
sense of, as they move towards regulating that more aggressively, whether business will
Just
come
as
to you?
much lower percentages.
They put it in alcohol beverage. I mean,
Yeah.
if they put it in bottles of alcohol.
Mhm.
Yeah, other than that, I think it's going to be competition.
Right.
Because you have, I mean, you've seen the buildup of these CBD, THC stores in Nashville and other areas.
Yeah.
And I think that's in anticipation of some of these things becoming more legal in the state, given what's happening at the reservation.
Yes, I think I was in a very large alcohol store in Florida, and he said it's now over 25% of his business.
Mhm.
It's a growing
Oh, yeah.
business, and we're behind the times. But that doesn't mean we're going to go into it tomorrow.
Right, okay.
No, I
Connie,
get that.
Connie, are you talking about 25% of the business in the
Sales.
state of Florida where
Next door.
THC products, either medical or recreational, has been legalized? Or are you talking about a state of Florida where there's a loophole in the regulations that allow?
No, it's been legalized,
Okay, and that we're not.
and it's alcoholic content. It's not non-alcohol.
South Carolina is not recreational legal. They have found a loophole and are able to advertise THC infused.
Yes.
even
Just like the stores have here,
Yes, yes.
right? It's different types of
Yeah.
THC that somehow.
Yes.
Let's find a loophole.
Yeah. But again, that's education with our staff
Got it.
and to help them understand the difference and to upsell it.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in upselling.
So-
If someone comes in and wants to buy
Oh,
a
yeah.
cheap bottle of vodka, I'm saying sell them an expensive bottle of vodka.
Yeah, I
From,
will point out though, that we were talking to the store manager at our meeting yesterday. What we've seen in recent months has been, and largely due to the economic uncertainty, that people are buying down. So you're either seeing
Mhm.
customers buying $100 bottles of bourbon or tequila,
Mhm.
or they're buying $10 bottles of bourbon or tequila because the kind of the middle buyers started to disappear.
Yeah, in my world, it's become a bipolar.
Mhm.
It's the cordials that are going out at 8 o'clock in the morning and the $200 tequilas.
Right.
But it's the middle where we're suffering.
From a statutory standpoint, are you allowed to cross-promote with any businesses in town?
No,
None of that?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's
Anything-
a lot of
yeah,
money.
Yeah, I know.
Very limited.
the promotional ideas would be huge, but we can't. We have to think it in a
Mhm.
different way because we need to educate to control the use of alcohol while we're in the alcoholic business. It's,
That's legitimate.
Yes.
That's exactly what you.
The other thing I would just mention in addition to what Connie talked about is yesterday at our meeting, we discussed maybe doing a little bit of refreshing of the store
Mhm.
and potentially refreshing of the signage, given that the stores hasn't been refreshed other than carpets in the 20-some years the store's been open. The signage is, where everybody's familiar with the sign. It was designed to attract visitors from Tennessee when they were coming across state because they couldn't buy liquor in Tennessee. That's no longer the case. Plus, the first store they hit now is Weaverville and not Woodfin.
mhm.
Come
So,
on.
The last store they hit is Weaverville. Like, we used to be the last ABC store in North Carolina
first.
before Tennessee. So
Yeah.
from anywhere from Woodfin to the state line, we were the last one. And then Weaverville opened.
No,
Nancy has a question.
The education money that the store pays out, what does that go to exactly? What does our Woodfin store spend that on?
it goes to a facility, and the name of it escapes me right at the moment, that does alcohol rehab. They have a farm, they have residents in.
First Step
in place. Yeah, I think it's First Step.
First Step
It's been the same program we've funded for a while.
Okay, I wondered where specifically that went. Thank you.
So can I drill down again on the education piece? Based on in-store experience, and maybe you'd have to go back and ask your manager, if you were to pick something that you thought would resonate the strongest with our constituents, with your customers, that we could promote, your money goes towards X, what is X?
Well, I think that is a seasonal question. In the summer, X would be the pre-mixed beverages that should be allowed to be moved to the front of the store and have a huge display. Right now, it's tequila.
Okay, that's not my question.
You know.
I like those
I'm
answers.
sorry, I
but
didn't
that's not my
understand.
question is, what is the cause that we would most, what
how
cause
you-
would resonate with people most?
Law
What
enforcement?
cause? Excuse me, I
I'm
didn't
sorry, I probably
understand.
was vague.
Uh,
What are people are most going to say? Well, I want, my money's going to that in Woodfin. I'm going to
Yes.
shop
I guess it'd
here.
be parks and schools.
Yeah, it's-
Recreation and
I
schools.
agree. Yeah, recreation and schools.
And we
Yeah.
can relax the manager, but that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
because we don't own the
We
school.
can't do anything
We
about the
can't
school,
do
Right.
but we can do stuff about the parks.
Right.
If I may ask, how do you decide what's purchased during the month?
The store manager.
That would be the store manager.
So is the,
If you come in and you ask for something, she'd be happy to order it for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and she just ordered something for a guy that lives up on Reynolds Mountain,
Mhm.
and he was delighted.
is that known, is that made known to anyone who comes in the store that?
Special orders?
Special orders? Not really. There's a lot of education that we need to do.
Mhm.
And the first thing we need to do is to get the staff to believe in it.
Okay.
And we're just taking baby steps there.
Okay.
Because there is a worry amongst the staff that things we're proposing are promotional, and that's going to get them in trouble with ABC.
I can tell you, I live near that store. I had no idea that we could do special orders.
Well, there's a lot that could be done, and to Bob's point, I think the store needs a refresh. It's a destination store. You don't, go to the Ingles and then pick up a bottle at the store. You have to make a trip. It's something that, we need to do some community outreach in order to have people understand who we are.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamental issue is that every store in the state sells every liquor for the same price. So the store that you're supposed to use is most likely going to be the store you buy from.
Or the store that's easiest to get into.
Or the,
Yeah,
right.
the store you
Access.
drive by on the way
Unless you
home.
have a bad experience at the store.
Yeah,
Then you'll go somewhere.
And the bad experience, yes,
Yes.
for sure. But it
Yes.
is one of the easier stores to get in and out
It's true.
of, because Merriman's store that traffic is hard right there.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
parking
horrible.
And
lots.
Weaverville, you have to go around and get to it. You have to go out of your way. So I think,
But you have the big, the offset to that is the big anchors in there.
As
Yeah.
Greg
Well-
told
Yeah,
me
you do. So
today,
if
like
you're going
location,
grocery
location,
shopping or the
location, and we
Lowe's.
don't have it.
I'm going to that.
We're not next to Walmart and Lowe's and
Exactly.
I'm sorry,
Hobby Lobby.
I'm drilling down so much on your stuff, Connie, but I come from advertising and marketing too. Maybe we should have coffee. Is there, now I've derailed my own train, I apologize. What kind of information are we allowed to put out for the store outside of the store premises, if anything?
The
Or are
only-
you allowed?
The only thing I've ever seen is Wake County, because they have different towns and they tell you how much Raleigh's getting out of the money and how much other towns in Wake County, which I don't know how much, I don't know any
You were
counties.
asking about specifically outside the store?
I'm saying, so you have obviously an opportunity to refresh the store,
right.
maybe to revisit signage and how that
Yeah,
steers volume and decisions.
yeah.
And can you do anything outside the store within the statutes?
I can't tell you that I've ever seen anything outside of an ABC store.
No, me either.
North Carolina doesn't
Who's-
advertise.
where
In
In the windows is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it could be. I just don't know.
Yeah, it would be terrific to say we just got a new shipment of blah, blah, blah today and it'll be gone by 10.
Right,
I mean, all of those things.
No, those are taboo.
right.
Do you-
Okay.
Do you guys, as well as your store manager, go to Weaverville and Asheville stores?
Oh, I've been to most,
Mystery shoppers.
in this area, I go to them all the time.
And does your store manager regularly?
I don't,
She
No.
talks to the people in
She
Asheville.
knows a lot of people.
she
in
knows
the
them
Asheville
all.
system.
And I don't know if she knows people in Weaverville, but
I
she
would
talks to the
encourage her
Asheville
because as
people.
I've gone lately in preparation for this, they're doing some promotion in some of those stores. And
I know they are.
Like,
when you
yeah.
ask the manager, wait, how do you get away with it? They said, nobody cares.
Yeah, no,
What do
that,
what do they promote?
I care.
I care.
I'm just telling you what the store manager said.
Yeah, that is, I would prefer to stay within the.
Of course,
guidelines for
of
the
course, of
difference
course.
between promotion and education.
But if
yes,
you're,
because we're not, until we get the manager on board with stretching her wings a little bit, more than she does now, that's not going to be an easy sell. So we hope that she will embrace some of the ideas that we have. And the difficulty for me is, how do I measure? I don't know that sign on the highway sells a dime. And I don't have a way of knowing.
Get used to when we were the furthest.
Yeah, to me, I would take that sign down. I think it's useless.
And I talked to Greg Stalling. The ABC board's job is to make policies, not to manage a store.
Yes, that's the manager's
Well,
job.
we've hired someone to do that for us.
But you don't oversee what she does?
We
Certainly
do.
we
We do.
She's at our board meeting every month and she makes a
But-
report. We're in there regularly.
But do you not put requests, like when you have ideas for things, you don't request things be changed?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
I will say that there's been numerous discussions amongst the board members about what should be done, what should be done, and we haven't decided on a plan of action.
Yes. So I have an ongoing list of things that I think should be done. And we have a chance to discuss it among ourselves, because the last thing we want to do is have Connie say, well, she wants to do this, and then Bob say, I don't agree. So we have to get a consensus, and then we will go from there.
Bill, next. And
This
Ken.
is more of a comment. I'm intrigued by the idea that we should be telling constituents and customers where that money that goes to the town is being used, and then actually executing that. And it does sound like parks and the way it might be an option. But I do know that at the Weaverville store, they do have their annual budget, their upcoming budget. It's June, it's budget month.
It's on the
They have
website.
their budget on a barrel by the door.
Yeah.
It's 3 pages.
A sales goal.
And it tells you what percentage or what amount is going to.
Yeah,
Weaverville.
yeah.
And I understand the need to say, well, what is it doing for Weaverville? Or for
Well, we're never going to get there. So, because we don't have that kind of money.
Well,
Well, wait,
Understood.
$60,000, is a chunk of money for this town.
Yes, it
It's
is.
very valuable to us.
As long as it's being properly used.
Well-
Well, I'm not saying properly used. I'm saying as long as we understand what we can do with it. We're just really in the infant stage
We'll
of
work on that for you.
doing that.
I would just say
We'll discuss that.
to Mr. Cohen's comments that we can certainly do this thing that Weaverville's doing in the store and show the budget, and show the proportional funds that are going to the town.
Yeah. There's a sign right now in the store about overall.
Yes, I see
It's
that.
new.
Yeah.
That's just new. Yeah. Which I thought was, a step in the right direction. The marketing part of me says no one's going to read it, but it's
I read it.
It's there. Yeah.
And there we
Well,
have.
not, nobody but Phil.
I read pie charts.
Yeah. Oh, a pie chart. It's been a while.
Oh, they have a nice pie chart there now, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you march towards that idea of saying this is what your money is going towards, you have some interesting ways to present that information. It's either it's going to Parks and Rec or this paved a trail.
Exactly. Yeah.
So-
And I live on Reynolds Mountain. I can put it all through the KISS organization, have it on their newsletter on a, I think it's quarterly basis that we can start, but I need a campaign.
Okay.
So even for the more moderate living folks, I think the fact, most people don't know that the ABC store gives money to the town.
That's correct.
They do not know that. And I would say
I do.
less than 5% of people know that. But for that age group of 30 to 50, where money goes is very important. And so they're voting with their dollars. And so I think that this route is a very smart one, what you're suggesting.
Well, I think it is because, as you know, what we do know is that the consumption of alcoholic beverages is declining within that certain area. And so we can, I think, get to them. We've done some work with I talked to the people that own the Airbnbs going up the mountain because they do all these bridal parties and bachelorette parties and saying, we're just at the bottom of the hill. So that's the kind of thing, but that's nothing that we're going to get results in a month. That's an ongoing campaign.
You got to do that every day.
And I think tourists shop at this closest store. Like I come here and I'm gonna look for an ABC, there's no incentive for me to drive from Woodfin to Asheville.
But as we get the wave and potentially large groups of people seasonally,
And then we'd have tourism.
there we go.
Yeah.
I want to jump in with a question. Not being critical, but every way I looked at the numbers, our stores profit, no matter what time period I look at, the percentage profit year over year is lower significantly than the other stores. Is there one or two key reasons for that?
I can answer.
Okay.
So today I was asking Greg Stallings about how Woodfin maybe could increase their profit. He said the number one reason that some stores outperform other stores is ownership of the building, and we don't own our building. He said if we wanted to make better profit, he said we should buy a building.
And
we sold it.
And we sold it. We did own it and we sold it.
you have a realtor actively looking for?
No, he just said that this morning.
We have a number of years on a lease.
So we can't like leave today
How
or
many more years do you have?
7 or 8, I believe.
Are you saying, Jackie, are you saying that Greg said, well, if you own your building free and clear, you're only paying taxes and therefore your overhead
You're not paying.
is
They wouldn't
lower
pay
than
taxes.
if you're leasing?
Yeah, you don't.
he said that all stores that lease make less money than all stores that own their building.
Is it because of depreciation?
No, that's.
We depreciate the building.
Depreciation, it's a non-cash expense.
I ran the numbers on that, between Weaverville and here, and it was really only about 10 grand.
So I don't know if anybody
Yeah,
owns their
different
building. I know we don't.
Owns their building, and I did run those numbers, and the difference was not as large as you would have thought.
I'm in the process of trying to benchmark our store versus the nearby systems, specifically Weaverville and Black Mountain, and also other systems that are similar in size to see where the discrepancy is. And I should have something for the council next month.
And Weaverville is actually buying, they're in a business condo and they're buying the unit next to them. They're saying they're growing so fast. That's fascinating.
One of the things I did was look over a 5-year period because it looked like the operating costs had increased substantially over that time period. But what I did find out was that, and I did this between Black Mountain, Weaverville, and the town of Woodfin, they started out all within about 12,000 of each other, and they still are with these much larger amounts, which I know part is based on the unfunded pension costs, the working, the lease interest expense, all kinds of things. But I was glad to see that was consistent everywhere in the county and not just Woodfin. So it's a big difference to go in 20, from where we were to where we are now. It's a huge increase, but it's consistent across the board. So I felt more comfortable in seeing that we're not like way out of line here in Woodfin.
Yeah,
Except our profit margin is so much lower.
I think it's very fair to say, as I've worked with many managers in my life, Tammy runs a good show. Her inventories are in line based upon the normal formulas. She manages her staff extremely well, and they're a young staff. She does a good job with them. She went from full-time employees to part-time, which saved us a lot of money. She is a very good operational manager. We just have to kind of turn her into a little bit more of a marketing manager.
And I do get that distinction, by the way.
Okay,
Operation versus marketing.
good. Thank you.
Other questions from council? Questions for us?
I have some, but I'm going to wait till.
I have a question. How would you go, I'm addressing Connie. How would you go about doing that with Tammy?
With Tammy?
Yeah.
Well, it's a trust.
Microphone.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Me? Oh,
Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
not you, Hazel.
You too.
you too, probably.
It's trust and education. I'm the newbie on the board.
Okay.
And it's not hard to say that I wouldn't do a whole lot of things right away. And she is protecting her store.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a very fair thing for her to do. So again, it's back to the relationship. And if we can get her to try a couple of things and we see results, we'll do more.
I think the other issue, frankly, is that there's a lot of beliefs that are held by both her and the finance manager who've been involved in a long time about what can be done and can't be done under the North Carolina statute.
Yeah.
That we three of us discussed sitting down with the commission or representative of the commission
Good.
to bring a list of proposals and say, is this okay
That's
for
a
us to
great
do,
idea.
is this
I
not?
like that.
And she needs to be involved in that discussion because otherwise she will
She will
question whether
Presently,
that's
she's
really
not
true.
involved
She needs to buy
in
it.
that.
We haven't had that discussion yet.
Yes.
with the
Okay.
commission.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
what I'm
Well,
seeing is these conflicts, or differences of opinion or whatever you want to call them. And there doesn't seem to be a clear path toward the resolution.
Well, the resolution is going to be, we're going to decide on the actions we want to take.
And then we're
three
gonna
of us
tell
are
her
gonna
to do
sit
it.
down with a commission member and go through and make sure we have a green light to do it.
And if I can
Thank you.
ask this question that maybe will help the direction of that, is is there a definition of what the mission of the store is?
Yes, there
Yes, there is.
And what the purpose, why it exists?
Yes.
Can you share that?
It's in the book, but I don't.
It's
know.
a- yeah,
Yeah,
It's a very long.
okay.
You can just paraphrase it. I'm not looking for exact words. It's just my understanding for the reason for the store to exist
It's-
it is set at its creation. But I'm interested in what
Yeah, I'll give you the words right out of the operations manual that's for the board that's provided by the commission.
To sell booze. Got it.
There we go. Mission statement, this is from General Statute 18B-700. The mission of local ABC boards and their employees shall be to serve their localities responsibly by controlling the sale of spirituous liquor and promoting customer-friendly, modern, and efficient stores. That's the mission.
It's what?
Simple.
Okay, but its
Short and
creation, was it not created to help support the town?
It was voted in by the
Oh,
town
you're
of
talking about-
Woodfin. And I was looking the other
You're talking
day.
about the specific mission of this store, as
This
opposed
store
to
was-
any store.
No, I'm
You're
talking
asking two
about,
different questions.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
that I didn't
gotcha.
make that clear. That this store was created to help support the operations of the community. Because that is typically my understanding of why communities bring AB stores in, is to be a revenue source.
Also, the C is the most important letter in ABC, and that's the point of it from prohibition. Is the state of North Carolina is one of the very last ones and still has the tightest control from a state government perspective about the sale of alcohol. You have to have an election, the choice to have an ABC store or not is an election that's run locally as a referendum by the citizens in each locality, a county, a municipality. And if you're going to sell spirituous liquors, as defined in statute, it requires a store. The store is the only source for it in the community. And so I think that there is the requirement of the leftover revenue after a whole slew of taxes are paid on the sales to the state and to other coffers. The locality is kind of the last one standing and gets whatever's left at the end of the day, sort of. The whole purpose of it is to just very tightly control. In other states, and the mayor referenced South Carolina, they're wide open.
Yes.
And it is, we've been on the verge of that several times
Well,
where consideration of privatization has happened.
That's the view of the state. That's not the view of the community.
That's right. And
Right.
because it's a state law matter, whether it ever gets opened up like that will take an act of the General Assembly. Whether you have it or not is very tightly controlled by those local referenda, and they dictate which, things are available.
Okay,
Okay, so the point of, I guess I need to maybe clarify more of the point of my question is, so the ABC store exists to bring tax money to the state, because all the revenue, the excise tax and everything, and that's a huge, huge amount. But it doesn't necessarily exist for the store to exist. Like, so it was my understanding the creation of this store was to bring revenue to the town. That was its primary. And so I'm wondering if that is still part of the mission statement.
None of us were here. You were here.
I would think that if you have a store in Woodfin, I think the people here voted for it because they wanted a store in Woodfin and closer to them and didn't have to go to Asheville.
Right.
We were,
They voted
and
for it
there's
because they wanted
still
to buy
not
it.
a store in Madison County. They have never voted alcohol in Madison County.
Yeah, but the
Done.
creation of the store, the whole idea of the store was not brought by the people to do it. It was more of the town trying to find another.
When was that?
I think it would be more from the people rather than the town.
What year was that? Do we remember?
I've got it in.
Decade, I'd go with that.
I think it was 7.
Yeah, it was in the.
No, 2007.
What are you driving at with your question?
2007.
How, okay, thank you. Okay, that's probably better the way he just directly asked me. Do you feel that you owe an obligation to us to make money, that we get money back?
Absolutely.
And does
We have.
does the store, and I don't mean that as a confrontational it's
No.
more of a, like, where in the mission of your existence, where do we fit in? And does your store employees feel that ownership, that they're making money, they're not existing for the store to exist, but they're just solely for the store to exist, but to
Well,
give us money back?
It's hard to make a strong argument when half the revenue goes to the state.
But that's a given, but we are supposed to get a portion of that.
Yes.
You do, and you do.
Okay. So is that your question?
That's my question.
Right.
And they have a formula how much of, we give you by far more than the state formula of what we
What she's
are
getting at
supposed to
as
give you.
part of that education program of your staff, probably, to help them understand. It helps the town.
Yes. And I think that's a good development.
Because it does help the town. $80,000, that's,
Not nothing.
that's influences headcount.
Well,
And if you had
exactly.
been in North Carolina a long time, like it was a big thing when we got mixed beverages as opposed to brown bagging, and we could take our bottles where we go, and that you could, it's a, if you'd been in North Carolina a long time, you would understand that it's a big deal. Alcohol is here.
It is.
I grew up here, so I understand
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's a big deal.
Are there other questions?
No,
I have questions.
Phil, go ahead.
I do have some questions, but I thought first I might start by saying why I'm asking these questions. I have looked at the spreadsheets that the mayor and the town manager compiled, and it seemed to me that our store was underperforming relative to other stores in the area. And I don't believe there's a simple answer or reason for that. And I especially appreciate what I've learned tonight about the need to perhaps promote the contributions of the town and where that money is going in the general fund. And we need to make sure keeps creeping forward. That does strike me as positive. I think I also understand our statutory authority limitations. And I think that the questions I want to ask start with the audit. When I read the audit, I saw that there were 2 pages, one recommendations, and the second page was additional guidance. And I think that the letter that was sent in response to the audit just dealt with that first page and not with the additional guidance. And in the middle of that second page, additional guidance, there was a sentence about taking steps, investigating, looking into reducing recurring expenses. And it occurred to me that that would be a good question to ask, and I don't expect that you have an answer now. But it seemed to me that that would be an audit finding guidance that has the store looked into ways to reduce its recurring expenses. That's one option. In preparation for this meeting, again, I looked at minutes for your meetings, and I was struck that on March 17th, there was a set of meeting minutes in which you were going to ask the store manager to talk to the owner of Salt Face Mule about his decision to take his business to Weaverville. And one question I have,
Hello.
may not know the answer to that now, is did that conversation occur?
It has occurred.
And so I'll come back to that because I'd like to hear.
Yes, unfortunately, she is not willing to do that.
Excuse me, not going to do what?
To meet with the manager of the store where we lost the business.
And I was thinking meeting with the owner of the Salt Face and Twisted Laurel who took his business from us to Weaverville. Not necessarily Weaverville.
And from
store,
Asheville.
But to talk.
And from Asheville.
And from Asheville, right.
She is not willing to meet with the.
So that gets into the question of what's allowable, what's not allowable. The suggestion was made that she take him to lunch. That was
That's not
determined to be
allowed.
not allowed.
Yeah,
Can't do that.
and, and.
She can go talk to him, she can take him to lunch if she wants to pay, but the state of North Carolina and the
She can
ABC
eat at
board
his
is not gonna pay.
I don't think it matters. So she can just meet with it. Because this is the
I'll pay.
page that you're talked about.
Yes.
And right in the back, that's what I highlighted, is exactly what you're saying. Cross-training opportunities for personnel should be maximized.
Oh, in the audit. the
They
second
are
page of
not
that.
correct.
So
That
was
is
one
what I,
question.
that's the thing that flipped my skirt right here.
So one
is
question I
that's
had was
allowed.
the Second page of the audit.
Right.
Which had what Connie just mentioned, but sorry, a second page additional guidance. Connie mentioned cross-training. I mentioned the recurring expenses review,
Yeah.
figure out reduction. Then I was on the minutes from March 17. And I think I just heard you say that she's not comfortable taking the owner of Salt Face Mule and Twisted Laurel to lunch.
There's 3 owners to Salt Face Mule. I used to have a shop beside Twisted Laurel, and they all live in Asheville. They're not involved in the thing. The manager of the Twisted Laurel told me that he lived closer to Weaverville and he didn't want to stop by Asheville. When they came out that you could buy it any place in the county, I'm like, well, why don't we just go and ask the people right over the Woodfin city limits into Asheville, could they buy in Woodfin? They said the North Carolina doesn't really want you to go into Asheville. Woodfin go into Asheville or Weaverville and go buy from us, don't buy from them.
Yeah, but why should they?
Doesn't
It's
want
all
you
their,
to.
it's all their
But
money.
It's okay to go to Weaverville from Woodfin.
It's a different
Well,
issue.
You know, it's just, the issue, the bottom line is the state made a change in the law to allow that to happen.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what happened.
So in answer to the question of the store manager consulting with a customer who took his business elsewhere, as in why, what can we do, the typical things you
Yeah.
do, you know, and it may not succeed, obviously, but you certainly do talk to a customer, especially if it's one of the businesses that you.
Couldn't agree with you more. You're preaching to the choir here
It's
with
a
me.
developmental opportunity.
It's
At this
talking to
stage-
the managers, you have to find the owners.
But at this stage, there's been no conversation with the decision makers who made that decision to take the business.
It's not true.
Sorry to interrupt, but I got a message from a member of the community saying that they can't hear council members because they're not speaking into their microphones.
All right,
Hmm.
thank you. And
What?
I am guilty of that, leaning
You
back
can't
while I'm
hear
talking
us.
to you, I'm sorry. At this stage, the answer is that the store manager has not
Thank
consulted
you, Shannon.
with the customers who have taken their business from Woodfin to Weaverville. I'd like to stress that I think that would be a good thing. I certainly don't know that you can guarantee an outcome, but it seems to me a good thing. There was one other item in those minutes from March 17 that struck me, which was next to Salt Face Mule, and perhaps in the same sentence, separated by a comma, but I could be wrong on the punctuation, was Connie suggesting ways to improve sales. And I certainly wanted to hear from, what were those ways, and whether the 3 of you agreed on some of them, and whether there were consultations with the store manager in relation to those. But that aspect of the minutes struck me, and I'll stop there.
And I think our store manager has a great relationship with the customers that come in the store. Salt Face Mule, Twisted Laurel. They just say it's easier to ride by Weaverville, and they're not going to give us a reason.
And they is who?
The manager of Twisted Laurel in Asheville told me that.
Okay.
That was his only reason for changing to Weaverville. It was easier than,
And he told me
Either else.
something different, but that's typical.
Well,
oh, wait,
know,
what
I
did
was
you
gonna
talk to
say,
the
yeah.
Twisted Laurel person
Yeah.
I
and
understand.
Downtown. the downtown.
Oh, never
Was
mind.
that about the allocation?
Yeah.
Salt face. And that's, okay, these are all valid stuff.
Yeah, in response to your question about the expenses, we do that on an ongoing basis. We're in discussions with our bank right now. There was a step increase in fees probably about a year ago that we're still waiting on an explanation from. We've also, we also, as I mentioned earlier, we decided to move a significant amount of money out of the bank to the North Carolina Investment Trust, which generates, a reasonable amount of income per year. And so we're continuing to look at ways to manage and reduce expenses where possible. That's one of the reasons we're doing the benchmarking also.
And I appreciate that sentence that you said about it.
And the other thing, just to address expenses, we could do twice the volume in the store with the same number of employees. The problem is we don't do twice the volume of sales. We only do what we do. So.
And my belief.
That's a problem with having a a relatively low volume store. You have to have people in the store at all hours, and you could handle more volume, but the volume isn't there. So.
And I think you need two people there.
But what I'm hearing from you is that you all are looking at ways
Yes.
to increase.
And we're gonna look at we're gonna benchmark against the systems to figure out if there are ways on the expense side to improve profitability. And we'll be looking at opportunities to grow revenue, whether it be some of the things that Connie's discussed or the cosmetic changes to the store that might be more appealing.
And that is one thing that someone brought up to me is the store's appeal on the inside. It is not as welcoming as maybe some other stores. And so.
Well, I think that has to do with the age of the building and the store and the fact that little has been refreshed since the store opened in 2007. I mean, frankly, I was up in Weaverville recently. The store doesn't look really very much different from the store.
I, by the way, agree with that statement.
Yeah. And the selection of alcohol isn't really different.
Well, I did see some differences.
Okay.
But not significant.
I'm a bourbon drinker. I looked at all the bourbons. There wasn't any different bourbons there than I drink or see in the store.
When I went to the Weaverville store, I thought it was crowded and sort of claustrophobic. I mean, but you said they were going to get the space next door, which I think would make their store better. But, we have lots of room.
And I'll end with a comment that I'm aware of our statutory authority, and I'm not interested in micromanaging the store manager or the ABC board, but I think that we have a fiduciary responsibility to be aware of what's happening with the store, to pay attention to what's happening in the store, to having a conversation with you about what's happening with the store. And I appreciate your coming here to have that
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yes.
And to that end, several of us would like to propose, and the town manager and the mayor can tell me when the appropriate time to do this is. It's our understanding that in the past, there have been periodic meetings between the board and our board to discuss both the store and the board and provide updates, and that it may have been maybe 3 years ago that those periodic meetings were reduced. And I'm prepared to make a motion to have every 4 months, a periodic meeting with us to update us on activities both for the board and the store. And I'll have to ask the mayor
Point
and
of
town
order,
manager when that is.
When you're talking about meetings, are you doing a joint meeting or are you talking about them
report,
presenting
yeah.
and us being able to ask some questions?
Oh, well, I'm actually
They're a
thinking,
big difference.
I'm thinking about a periodic update that would include a Q&A. I can't tell you whether that should be a special meeting between the two boards.
It wouldn't be necessary to have a special
I
meeting.
mean, would it be okay if the chairman just came and had the meeting with you all
Sure.
and not the whole board?
Oh, no, that's,
But I love the fact that the three of you. Oh,
Oh, well, maybe we should all come.
Myself, but.
then would you be amenable to coming every 4 months and just updating us on progress on these things? And maybe you take turns coming however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to ask you to do that? Or are you okay with doing that on your own?
We can just do it.
Yeah, I have no problem coming
Okay.
to a meeting.
Good.
And can I ask the town manager to keep in mind that we're in June, am I right? Yes.
Yes,
We are in
I
June.
hope so.
Bless your heart.
So
We are
October-
in June. That's the next periodic update would be 4 months from now.
Yeah.
And that would be on a recurring basis. And
I
speaking
like
for myself, I love the fact that the three of you are here. I feel like I've learned a lot from all three of you. But I really don't wish to add to your time commitments. I'm pretty aware of how time is spent and that we all are short of it. We could use more. But I will just say that I have learned a lot from hearing from all three of you.
So how about if I send Shannon a letter and every 4 months, we'll schedule it for October, February, and we'll commit to what months we're going to come.
That'd be great.
That's
Like
great. Thank you.
It'd be awesome. Are there other questions from council?
No, just.
Other
thank
things you wanna
Thank
say to-
for
I'm sorry.
do this.
This was good, and
Thank you.
we take responsibility for not offering to help you more.
And the end of our meeting is at 6:24.
All right, so you are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this tonight. We really appreciate it. We're gonna talk about that. Yes, ma'am. Interesting proposition.
Mhm.
Okay, we will now continue our regular session with new business item 3, which is a public hearing and a staff report. Consideration of ordinance 2025-08, or which is a request to update the stormwater fees. Adrian Eisenhower is going to lead us through that.
Okay, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Adrian.
So just going to give a quick overview of a change to the stormwater fees as we discussed at the April budget work session. So staff was able to use new aerial photography and building footprint data to reanalyze the impervious surface in town that we use to determine the stormwater fee. And based on that new information, the impervious surfaces have increased for both residential and commercial properties. You can see from the graphs there, residential's increased about 2 million square feet and commercial about 1 million square feet. So looking at that a little closer, we have just over 3,000 parcels in town that we use to collect this data on and will be billed this fee. And the majority of those are residential, 22,675 of those, with just 412 being commercial. But if you look at the impervious surface coverage, 58% of commercial is 58% of impervious surface is commercial, and just 42 is residential. So commercial is still, yeah.
Right, I was curious how much of that is IPEX.
I can get back to you on that, but I don't know exactly.
A bunch.
Very, a lot.
And then we have just over 24 million square feet of impervious surface that we're using to analyze this and determine the fee. So with the new analysis and this information, staff is recommending that we keep the same rate structure that we had for single family residential before, but we'll be able to lower the fees. So it's a tiered flat fee, but with the increase in impervious surface and the decrease or increase, however you say it, in collection rate. The budget's a little bit lower, so we're able to lower the fee some. We still have above 21,000 square feet be per ERU rate, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So if you're looking at the tiers, the first tier, which is the majority of the residential parcels in town, with over 1,500, would be at $2.93 a month with a $35.11 fee per year. The second tier with just over 700 parcels would be $6.25 a month, $75.02 annual fee. And then the last tier with just over 300 would be $12.21 a month with $146.55 bill annually.
So most people are in category 1, right?
Yes,
What's that fee now? If it goes,
it's $41.
$7 less now.
is it 42 more or less for the?
It's 41 and some
Okay,
change.
Yeah.
okay. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a 21.8% average reduction across all three tiers and the per ERU lots. And talking about the commercial rate structure, that's the per ERU or equivalent residential unit fee. So with the new impervious surface data and analyzing that, we've determined that the ERU is 3,891 square feet of impervious surface. So you determine that by taking the total residential impervious surface and dividing it by the total residential parcels. So we have 3,891 equivalent residential units in town. So that gives us an ERU rate of $5.44. So you take that revenue projection for commercial properties, which is 58% of the total budget, because they're 58% of the impervious surface coverage, divided by the total number of ERUs, which with all this math is 3,687. So that gives us a rate of $5.44 a month per ERU. And that's about 50%, 50 cents lower than the
Keep
current
this up and
fee.
we're gonna applaud.
That's all I have for now.
What's the net reduction, ballpark us in? We brought in this much before, we'll bring in this much in the future. Or what the whole dollar? Well, I'm just curious.
I think
Okay.
it's close, but we were able to reduce or increase the amount of collections because with the tax office, the
Right.
collection rate is over 99%. So it allowed us basically achieving that efficiency to reduce the overall rate. Plus there was some additional impervious surface due to growth and the evaluation that also factored into the equation.
Here's my question. Our cost to control stormwater and erosion and damage is never going to go down. Since people now seem to understand the stormwater fee and are comfortable paying it, why would we reduce it and not keep the rate the same and do more stormwater damage repair?
Well, we have a pretty good surplus in the capital improvement line item over the past couple of years because we haven't gotten to the point that we've been able to spend any of those dollars. And we don't know exactly how much we're going to need once we get to that point. We still have some engineering planning to do and plans to be drawn up for that, for us to know that. So we feel comfortable with where we are and how much money we have. So we don't want to overfee the residents. So I think we're comfortable with where we are with this for the next 4 years.
This revenue has to stay in stormwater by law?
It's an enterprise fund.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Can you go to
dumb.
the previous slide, Adrian? Yeah, 21.8%. I think that's great, and I realize that it primarily has to do with including the property tax. Given the some parts of the community's concern about the stormwater fee suddenly appearing last year, I think it'd be appropriate for us to, through our social media and also on the website, to mention in very broad terms that we are reducing
Yeah.
that fee. It's good news.
Yeah.
And I like your phrase, your word, overfee. I think that we should not overfee our residents. And this is good news. I think we should tell people about it.
We can do that. We just want to make it official first. So.
Oh, I'm already going to tell people. No.
At the liquor store. Other questions for Adrian? Good job. Thank you very much. And with that, we will now open the public hearing at let's call it 6:40 PM. Public hearing is now open. Anyone want to express their opinion on the reduction in the stormwater fee?
I got a question.
Come to the microphone, please, sir.
Ronnie Lunsford, Barnesville Hill Road. I noticed that 7% of the people hadn't paid. What is the town doing about that?
Say it again.
7%.
Oh, that we hadn't collected. Sherry's going to answer you, I think.
Sure. Now that the state legislature allowed us to put the fee on the property tax bill, that allowed us to collect in the same manner as property taxes are collected. So the tax office will enforce that collection just like they would property taxes.
But up until this point, we're centered the collection. Is it worth doing any of that?
We are still, anytime, we get a lot of calls from attorneys that are closing properties that have closed. Anytime we are able to collect, we still do for that first year. And we have
sending to a collection agency was a little problematic, and we
Sure.
can talk about details, but
Right.
moving forward, this current year and next year and the years to come, the tax collector handles that for us
Good question.
in the same manner as property
I
tax.
think it's thought if I could get out of it, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, we're coming for you, Ronnie. We know where you live. Other question, any other public comment in the public hearing? If not, I will close this public hearing at 6:41 PM. Next item is a public hearing consideration of ordinance 2025-09.
Mayor, we've got to
You have to
have a
do
vote.
the motion.
Oh, I beg your pardon, you're right. You're always right. Is there a motion? Who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the proposed amendment to Chapter 41, Article 7, Stormwater Management Utility subsection 41-45, rate structure to amend the stormwater fee rates.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Sherry. Okay, next item is public hearing consideration of the ordinance requesting approval of our proposed budget for the next fiscal year. Awesome. Sherry Powers.
Yay, we
Finally, we're here.
long process, but we finally made it to the end. I'll make my comments very brief because I know you all are sick of hearing me talk about budgets.
We're not.
We gave a full presentation for the benefit of the council and public at the last town council meeting, reviewing all the aspects of our proposed budget for this year. So in summary, the recommended budget for fiscal year 26 totals $8,214,932. It's a balanced budget, revenues matching expenditures, projected expenditures. I revamped this tax collection slide. I was doing a little research, and according to Zillow and several of the other real estate reporting sites had similar numbers. The median home price in Woodfin has increased about 1.7% over the last year, so it's $436,094. So I redid my slides. Buncombe County voted last week on their tax rate, and they did increase rates, but not quite as much as they had originally proposed. So their tax rate went to 54.66 cents for every $100 valuation. Woodfin, the recommended tax rate that staff is recommending will remain at 33 cents for this year. And then the majority of our residents are in the Woodfin Fire District, and that's another 10.59 cents. So that totals 98.25. So the average homeowner in Woodfin pays $4,284.62 a year in ad valorem taxes on their home, which is not insignificant. The general fund revenue budget we adopt by program, as I mentioned, totals $8.2 million. The majority of our revenue comes from property taxes and other taxes like sales tax and utility taxes. And we have other lesser restricted or lesser value items. The restricted intergovernmentals next. That's mostly our Powell bill revenue from the state and other restricted things like our ABC, law enforcement revenue and things like that. So in summary, this is our general fund revenue budget. On the expenditure side, our expansion budget, which are all the things that are not currently included in our base operating budget, are summarized in total $669,623. Spent a good bit of time talking about all these. The items in blue, I will mention, are recurring items, so they'll impact our budget not only this year, but moving forward. And the items in black will be one-time expenditures that should just be for the next fiscal year. General fund expenditures. Administration includes the town council budget and our other general fund administrative things that don't fall nicely in another department. Tax collections are our Reynolds Mountain tax increment financing and our 2% that we pay Buncombe County to collect our taxes for us. Planning and zoning budget. Planning The police department is our largest expenditure. They have half of our town staff, or 20 employees. We consolidated streets and sanitation into one public works department. Moving forward, it just didn't make sense to keep those as separate departments. So you'll see that as one. And then Parks and Recreation make up the remaining portion of our general fund budget. Okay. One thing I forgot to mention, current budget includes 39 full-time positions and 1 part-time. We've added an additional part-time position to help cover the front desk for next fiscal year. So we'll be a total of 39 full-time and 2 part-time positions next year. So again, in summary, the total general fund budget's $8,214,000. In addition to the general fund, we have 2 other funds. We have our Parks Capital Project Fund, the current adopted budget, plus an additional $192,000 for the Silver Line restroom. Totals a recommended $321,227 for next fiscal year. And then the Stormwater Enterprise Fund that we just saw a presentation on from Adrian. The recommended budget for next year is $419,312. Majority of the revenue to support that fund comes from fees, and then we have some additional when people want to develop property and they have to submit a stormwater plan for review. There's some fees associated with that review, and that we estimate to total around $4,000. Yes, sir.
Sorry, on that slide, bottom of the slide, I'm curious, what is that department expense?
That is a audit. It's what they call uncollectible accounts. So last year they estimated the uncollectibles from the previous year, and it was a percentage based on an actuarial formula that they use. That number will go down significantly next year, but we had to put that in.
That's not a department.
That's
It's
a bad department.
It's like a bad, yeah.
Oh, it's dead. It's supposed to be dead.
It's a
typo.
Yes.
Good catch there, council member.
Should be, yeah.
Bad debt.
But that's what that is. That's the write-off that is required to balance the uncollectible revenue. And finally, a new slide. I mentioned on the first slide a disclosure that we have programmed a little over $7 million in FEMA money in our budget for the current operating year. That's why it's so much higher than the recommended $8.2 million. It's actually $7,790,708 we have included in our budget this year, through 4 budget amendments. To date, we have collected from either FEMA or the state cash flow loan program $1,489,000, and we have spent $1.5 million. So they owe us a little bit of money. We expect to collect everything that we spent. It's just timing issues, and we'll talk about that more as we proceed. I don't have that in the current budget because we're not sure how we're going to end up at the fiscal year end with all of our debris collection dollars. Once we know what that looks like, if we need to program some more of that money next year, we will. You'll also expect a budget amendment when we get ready when we have the costing on our park repair projects. We don't know that amount yet, so we haven't put that in the budget yet. So we'll have some budget amendments over the next year to shore up all the FEMA revenue that we expect to collect and the expenditures we'll be required to make. And that is all I had. So, Mr. Mayor, whenever you're ready.
Fantastic.
I have a
Question, go ahead.
smart comment. I wanted to express my appreciation of staff's attempt to not increase the tax rate. That is, I know that some of our surrounding communities are. Personally, I am not opposed to government spending, but I think inflation, COVID, uncertainty with the federal government, I believe, now's the wrong time to be raising
Louder,
taxes.
louder.
Oh, sorry. I think that I wanted to express my appreciation for staff's attempt to present a budget that did not increase the tax rate. I know that some surrounding communities are, but I think that given inflation, COVID, the uncertainty with federal government spending, especially FEMA, and Helene, now's the wrong time to be raising taxes unless there is a clear critical need to do so. And I realize that we have revaluation coming up next year, and we'll be having these discussions again. But in addition to the budget presentation being very thorough and comprehensive, I appreciate the attempt not to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you,
Other-
Councilman. That's always a last resort in our strategy and crafting the budget. And as you mentioned, we try to hold expenditures at a reasonable level and achieve revenue from every other source before we try to hit the taxpayers with the burden of funding things that we need for operating the town.
Are there questions or comments before we open the public hearing? Open this public hearing at 6, name it,
51.
6:49. Is there anyone who would like to address council with their opinion about the budget? I know we've gone to a lot of trouble, especially last month, in making the numbers available and promoting them. If not, we'll close this public hearing. We will move to the motion. Who would like to make this one? Mr. Cohen, go ahead.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-09, the town of Woodfin's fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, and find that it is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the Woodfin Together Comprehensive Plan and the financial needs of the town. This budget ordinance reflects a balanced budget in accordance with NCGS 159-8 and maintains the current ad valorem tax rate of 8 cents, 0.33 in parentheses, per $100 of taxable property.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The motion passes, and great job, Sherry. Wow.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll understand you're responsible for this facelift out here. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, next is a public hearing. Staff report, consideration of ordinance 2025-10, requesting approval of a zoning text amendment to chapters 46 and 54 of the Town of Woodfin Code of Ordinances related to landscape requirements. Take it away, Mr. Hurley.
All right, hopefully we'll not drag this out too long. Shane knows I like to talk about some of this stuff. So again, chapter 46 is our subdivision chapter, and chapter 54 is the zoning chapter. The bulk of the text amendment will be in chapter 54. Councilmember Thornton, Councilmember Young, and our former Councilmember Edgerton sat on a subcommittee that met, what was it, about 5 times, interrupted by Helene, and worked very closely with Mrs. Tuck and myself on drafting the text amendment. So it's been kind of very well vetted up to this point. I think we probably want to change one word from open to green space in there. So that'll be one change we'll need to make after, if we recommend approval of that. Might be something we have to condition on. Just kind of spoiler alert there for you. So right now, our current standards, really Mountain Village is the only zoning district that really has any comprehensive landscaping standards like street trees or an open space area that's required. And we've seen that in a couple major subdivisions. If you recall, High Hopes back early this year had an open space area, but it was Mountain Village. As far as zoning goes, in chapter 54, again, it's Mountain Village. The only thing that's kind of overall that you see over and over again is a buffer strip when commercial development abuts residential, and it's really like 10 feet wide and some evergreen shrubs. So it's very thin. So I think Shannon said this in the meeting, we didn't want to go from 0 to 100 mile per hour with this text amendment, but we tried to shoot in the middle. So we're hoping this text amendment does that. So what it'd be applicable to is residential multifamily and single family projects with 5 or more dwellings. Any new commercial construction of 5,000 square feet or more, let me know if I'm not talking. I feel like I'm talking really fast. I'm trying not
Okay.
to.
You're good, you're okay.
I don't want to keep y'all here all night. Any expansions to that, a commercial development 50% greater of the pre-expansion floor area, and then in any circumstance, 20,000 square feet. We don't have a lot of large buildings. I would say Ingalls might be the one in town that'd be a large commercial building. If they were add on, 50% of that building would definitely be over 20,000 square feet. So that would be triggered at that point. So I tried to summarize the proposed standards. So basically, street trees would be required at a one tree every 40 or 50 feet of street frontage. That's small, large tree, depending on if there's overhead utilities. We call buffer strips buffer yards, and we widen that to 20 feet with a more kind of per 100 foot ratio. So that's 8 trees and 14 shrubs per 100 linear feet. So if it's 200 feet, it's double that. If it's half that, it's half that number. We use vehicular use area. So this is any surface that's designed for a vehicle, car, large semi-truck to drive upon, not just parking spaces. Because you could have maneuvering areas, the drive entrances, drive aisles, that's included. So that's that, you see 1 tree per 1,500 square feet of VUA. Tree within 20 feet of that area with islands of 300 square feet. Now, again, we kind of had a trigger of 10 parking spaces, and I think it's 5,000 square feet of VUA. It's in there if you're reading through the ordinance. Screening, that is a hedge, I said, evergreen trees or opaque fence or wall. That's dumpster screening, utility service areas, storage yards. That would be what we would. That's what we would be screening, is those kind of back of house operations that are kind of every day you see it, but maybe not pay attention unless you're living next door to that dumpster and looking right at it. Open space, again, change that to green. We're looking to mandate a minimum of 5%, not 15% of the total parcel size, and that's based on the larger lots. 5% would be like less than an acre, and you're talking about like 3-5 acre tracts, 15%. Any major subdivision would be 15% open space. Back to High Hopes, remember that one? They done more, 500 square feet. 500 square feet per dwelling unit is about 7.5% of your lot of an acre when you do that 500 square feet. So you're looking at about 7.5. So this will basically double what we're requiring. And if you read into the open space a little bit more, or the green space, we do require tree planting. So this wouldn't just be an open field, something they bulldoze and just grass it. It would be 1 tree per 1,000 square feet of area. So depending on how much we require. So if we require 5,000 square feet of open space, you're going to need at least 5 trees. We also enhanced our tree credits in there. Yes, sir.
Can you go back one?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to keep everybody. I'm trying to respect the time, but not blast through.
I feel guilty asking questions.
No.
But the last bullet point, you roughly double the amount of open space requirement for major subdivisions.
Yeah. That's only in Mountain Village too. Keep in mind,
Okay.
Current R10, R21, they don't require open space. So this is going to
I
be
was about to ask a density question, but that's fine.
Yeah. What's the density question?
Does this contradict the need for increased density, since we have a housing problem everywhere? But I understand.
Well, I mean, we have Mountain Village, which is very flexible in lot sizes. And then with a CZ, because we're still requiring larger subdivisions to have a CZ anyway, they could ask for some sort of modification to the lot size or what with.
Density requirement is based on your overall square footage, which would include your open space.
Okay.
So if you had a 5 acre parcel and you were allowed 10 units an acre, that would be 50 units. If 15% of that is open space, it's still 50 units. You still have the same acreage with the same density allowance.
Or so it's not prohibiting.
It is not prohibiting the
Right.
density. It may have the effect of shifting the density or clustering the density or something like that. But
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Any other questions before I? All right. So again, like I said, other changes, we wanted to incentivize the preservation of existing trees by giving more credit for larger trees. Right now, we max out about 3.5 tree credits, and we stop at 16 inches. We jumped up to 5 credits for like a 25-inch tree. We want to preserve our larger, more mature specimens. You get, they're just more shade. They have a lot more value to property when you preserve that tree. We also are kind of silent on maintenance standards. So, really our steep slope areas right now was like you need to follow ANSI standards, so you can't just top a tree in steep slope, but that's only applicable in steep slope. So we want to extend this downward into the commercial corridor as well. One new item is prohibiting the speculative grading to all zoning districts. Right now, again, steep slope is the only district that does that, the only preclusion we have. So we expand that town-wide. We move some steep slope definitions.
Is that regardless of the size of the lot?
Yes. Yeah. So you would need a use. You would need to present a plan to us at town and let us review the use. You just can't go out there and just say, I'm going to prep this lot for something in the next 10 years.
Great.
Yeah. One thing we missed when we done our update last fall, we still had definitions in the steep slope section. We moved those to 5410 to kind of get everything in one place. Again, the tree credit table, we moved that out of steep slope into this landscape section. We had this weird site plan checklist that was floating that was actually confusing to people. Like, what's the checklist for steep slope, or where is it for variances? We're like, no, we'll just have that in-house. And so we're deleting 54, 157. And then there was some minor technical corrections in the conditional zoning about which board heard what. I think you had Board of Commissioners in there a couple times, and we made it Town Council. And finally, we had we're adding an Appendix A. We don't have an Appendix A right now, or any appendix. And we spent probably 2 meetings on this planning list. So we found a very good native plant list and kind of massage it a little bit to make it a bit more Woodfin specific and not too technical. So again, we have the tree name on the left, the common name, the potato name, if it's deciduous or evergreen, and then we talk about light, water, height, and then the notes we consolidate if it was edibles or if it was a pollinator friendly type of material, and then that's also kind of indicated on the far right. Just trying to encourage that. And we wanted to lean very heavily on native vegetation. And I think Shannon clarified to us is that this is for required material. So if somebody wants to plant extra, that's decorative, they can do that. But the required material should be found on the list.
Let me just say, I love that page. I absolutely love it.
Yes, I agree.
Let's see. Well,
Is that a page that you would periodically update?
I would say that like any document, we would want it to be fluid. I mean, it's an appendix. Shannon, would we need to have that if it's adopted as an appendix? It'd have to come through the formal. Yes, that's what I was thinking. So it'd have to come back for the subcommittee if y'all had one, or planning board to amend it.
It seems like that's a list you're getting.
Yeah.
From someone else, and that list will be.
Yeah. Well, we borrowed somebody else's list instead of recreating the wheel. We borrowed that, and it's heavily like native material. So I don't think we're going to find something where we're like, this cultivar that was from Japan or Eastern Europe is now actually invasive, because we didn't know that it would become invasive. Bradford pear is one of those that people thought were good. Well, not so good. We're probably not going to run into that problem here with these tree material. Again, there's another page from the shrubs.
And the purpose of that is so that they're more likely to survive. That's
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah. And
I think
so-
native makes a lot of sense.
I think it's
Or-
also, it helps establish a sense of place. Because it's
Yeah.
Western North Carolina and the materials and they.
Yeah. And I think Shannon knows more about vegetation than I do, but I think Shannon, you said that we have a huge palette of material that's available because this climate is so diverse and so friendly.
Yeah, if council and others are not aware of this already, we live in Western North Carolina and one of the most biologically diverse, not just in North Carolina or in this country, but even in the world. So we have like an incredible plant out, native plant.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some places as you move toward the west, you get like 1 or 3 trees of really all they have. Yeah. So
Juniper in New Mexico.
yeah, I'm just happen to be allergic to probably half of it, but so with that, I'm gonna stop, public hearing. Is there any questions? I know 2 members here have lived this and bled it for a few meetings, so I didn't want to.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we're very grateful to
It's
the work
great.
you and Shannon
Awesome.
did
Yeah.
on this. So thank
Great
you.
presentation.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to rush it, but I know that it's.
That's fabulous.
Did you want to speak a little to the word swap that you were?
So I asked for the word swap because I think the intent of us trying to create this plan was to enhance the living environment that we live in. And so when you use the word open space, you think of a field, free to do whatever, but it's just a field. But when you use the term green space, you think of plant matter. It doesn't mean that it has to be a forest, but you do think of a more green and inviting. It helps with mental health and all of those. So that is why I asked for the term to be changed so that when people see it, they work towards the goal of making our community more green.
And just to clarify too, it doesn't preclude the option for somebody to do active or passive recreation if that was part of the plan. Like if you were doing subdivision, you wanted to have a playground, it doesn't preclude your ability to do that. It just means that there's an additional planting requirement in or around that space.
And that helps with cooling of our community. The more shade, the cooler it is.
We've also lost a ton of tree
Oh,
canopy
wow.
as
Yes.
a result of the storm.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
So anything we can do to encourage trees and stuff.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I
If
think
not-
one of our,
Go ahead, please.
no, we do a public hearing.
Yes.
but Never mind.
Okay. Open this public hearing at 7:10 PM. Is there anyone that would like to address council on the changes to these ordinances,
You
which
have someone.
are pretty awesome? Yes, sir. We know you. You still have to tell us who you are in the
I
microphone.
understand that. I'm Walt Brewer.
I was first ready.
I'm not familiar with all the other ordinances, so I just wanted to clarify something. There were several terms like major developments. Are those more carefully defined? Okay. And is there for the plantings, trees in particular, is there a caliper requirement? And is there a survivability requirement?
Everything, I'm sorry.
So like, 12 months later, still has to be,
It has to be.
Actually, it has to be maintained. So if a tree dies 3 years out, you're out of compliance and.
okay.
Now we're not necessarily actively policing every tree.
No, I understand.
But, if we notice that somebody's removed a bunch of trees or.
The tree police.
Epidemic or something, then we would.
In our neighborhood.
Okay. And I just wanted to mention that I'm intimately familiar with the plant list, having developed it. And it's available as an Excel spreadsheet. And I would encourage you to share that as a spreadsheet because that allows sorting for, all the requirements that you might want.
That's a great idea.
And it also has a list of the nurseries that at the time that it was done, that carries those plant materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, we'll close this public hearing at 7:12 PM. And how about somebody,
And just to let you know, PBA voted 7-0 to recommend approval. We concur with them, and here's your suggested motion.
how about, you want to do this one?
Yeah.
Substitute your additional, like with the substitution.
Yeah.
Maybe, if I can figure out what to put that. Okay, I move to,
There aren't any.
sorry, I don't have my glasses on. So I move to approve the proposed text amendment subject to the following additional conditions. And that is where I'm asking the term.
That the term open space or the term green space be substituted for the term open
Okay.
space.
So the term green space is substituted for the term open space. And find that it is reasonable in the public interest, is consistent with Woodfin Together comprehensive plan, and meets the development needs of the community in that the request provides additional clarity and predictability to development requirements, thereby supporting economic development, ensures that the town's planning, zoning, and permitting processes facilitate sustained and positive development and support the needs of businesses and industry, and preserves and enhances Woodfin's green space, natural environment, and community character.
And is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Yes.
Okay, one more. Public hearing, consideration of ordinance 2025-12, requesting approval of a zoning map amendment for portions of property located at 317 and 59 Ventana Drive and identified in Buncombe County tax records as the pins noted here. The rezoning request is to change a 1 1/4 acres from community shopping CS to residential R21 and 0.18 acres from residential 21 to community shopping. The project contact is Troy Shriver, property owner, Philly Capital Partners, LLC.
Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction on that. So this is probably when you don't see a lot is a general rezoning request. So we're just going, nothing CZ, nothing condition wise on it. And this is to facilitate a recombination of a property. And that's the reason why there's a part going from commercial to residential, residential to commercial. It's just a little bit of a swap. That's weird. Okay, so if anybody's been there, I know Ventana Versan is gated, so unless you live in there, you cannot get in. This is basically you go up and you make a right-hand turn at the junction. It's like a T, and that the right-hand side is Ventana, and you drive basically all the way to the end. This area was annexed into the town about 21 years ago, and at that time it was like 359 acres. They rezoned a big portion of that R43, a big portion R21, and then there's an area that's the existing CS community shopping which is on this right-hand side of the screen up here. I don't think, okay, yeah, I don't have the big cursor up here, but that's CS right here, community shopping, and it kind of comes up in this pie wedge.
Why would you have community shopping at the end of a luxury development?
I'm not really sure. That's something that clearly predates all the staff with the town. It happened at the time in 2004. It was August of 2000.
Just curious.
We think it might have been like a resort.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. A club, store.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So it happened in, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think Ventana actually was part of it. And another failed development that then Miss Carroll, who you've seen before for other projects, revived and got this going again in like 2015, 16. And so it's built out. But you can kind of point out, so this pie wedge will go from the CS to the R21. Can everybody see my cursor on point? Okay.
Yes.
And then the little bitty dog tail at the bottom here will go from R21 to CS. So that's the little piece.
Why?
Yeah.
Just because that's her part. So she's swapping. So she owns both.
All
She has a buyer. There's a gentleman that's.
Can I point out?
Yes. Go. Yeah.
These are always a little confusing to understand, and I apologize for members of the public who can't see me and what I'm pointing to, but this is the parcel as it exists today.
Right.
And they want to recombine and take a piece of this property and add it to this lot to make it more developable.
Right.
So the new property line would go like that. So they're just trying to take this piece of CS to be R21 to go with the rest of that. And then with the new property line going here, it would have been weird to have a little piece of R21 in this whole CS. So that's what I guess. So it's really, you see this from time to time with these recombinations is you just have to kind of swap them to get, it's basically what we have.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. And the recombination will actually make this parcel conforming to steep slope for lot size. So it'll go over the 1.5 acre minimum lot size. So and it's a net decrease in the amount of CS up on the mount. So that's a positive in that manner too. It's RA residential 2. So the area that kind of fits in with the, rezoning to R21. You'll see that the Robin Hood Road down in here, this is City of Asheville, so it's close downhill. And then as you can see, a lot of the homes are clustered right along what was called Starfish, the county called up Ventana Road, and it dead ends right here. It turns to gravel. I've driven up here and posted a sign. And then there's homes. So it's almost actually built out up here as far as the single family lots goes.
Does the same developer own that commercially zoned property?
Yeah. Philly Capital Partners owns the lot, and I believe it's under contract right now. And then she owns all of this.
So we may see zoning change requests from them in the future to build houses there?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know. We haven't got any plans. We haven't had any detailed discussions with Ms. Carroll about any future project there.
Is that Asheville water or Woodfin water? Do you know?
I
Just curious.
I don't know. It may be Woodfin water, but I think it's Woodfin water.
Good. Beautiful.
And so this is the recombination plat. So you can see, as Shannon pointed out, this is the area that's going back to her larger tract. And this is the new lot configuration here. They actually want to build the home in this area, and we don't allow single family homes in CS. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been quite as urgent, but they want to build actually right here. Okay. And then as far as considerations, it would allow for construction of a single family home. Like I mentioned, reduces the amount of commercially zoned property in steep slope. The zoning district, CS, was established well before the community. And like I said, 21 years ago, there's only going to be a 0.18 acre parcel that's going to be CS coming back to us. And it's a net gain of 1.07 acres of residentially zoned property. So is there any questions for staff on this? We've mailed notices. It's kind of another one of them weird one. We mailed notices. We had to notify everybody abutting, which was like 25 or 30 property owners. It was a huge amount because that large CS tract wraps around all those individual single family lots. So we've posted and mailed everything. And once the neighbors figured that out.
As a result,
yeah,
a lot of people came to the public hearing.
Yeah, well, I think we had one neighbor that was very active, reached out, kind of found out what was going on, and they were happy with the fact that it's, reduction in commercial property. I don't know if applicant came up. Ms. Carroll was here at the last meeting for planning board adjustment, but I don't know if we have anybody here tonight.
All right, if there are no questions from council, we'll open this public hearing at 7:19 p.m. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address council or staff regarding this zoning change? Which looks like a very positive. Anyone? Last call. If not, we'll close this public hearing at 7:20. And there's a suggested motion.
Yeah. So again, Peter voted 7-0 to vote recommend it. Right. We concur. And here's your suggested motion.
Council member Hazel Thornton, you want to do this one?
Sure. I move to approve the rezoning of 1.25 acres from Community Shopping District to R-21 Residential District and rezoning of 0.18 from R-21, I'll say that again, R-21 Residential District to Community Shopping as shown on Exhibits A and B, and find that it is reasonable, it is in the public interest, is consistent with the Woodfin Together Comprehensive Plan and meets the development needs of the community in that the request, one, uses the future land use map for guide development decisions, parentheses 1.1.1, in parentheses. Two, make government decision-making accessible and transparent to all residents, parentheses 4.4.3, in parentheses.
And is there a second to Hazel's motion?
Second.
If there's no other discussion, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ricky. Great job, as always. We appreciate you. That concludes the new business. So if there are other matters for council to address, I'll ask the town attorney, Mr. John Henning, if council needs to go into executive session.
We do, Mr. Mayor, the reasons for the closed session are the ones set out in GS 143-11A1 to discuss matters that are confidential pursuant to GS 168-168 and GS 143-1185 to consult with an attorney retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to exit regular session and go into executive session?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned, regular session at 7:21. We'll take a 3 to 5 minute break and then reconvene.
Sharon, can I ask you just a couple of quick questions that came to my mind in all of the landscaping things?
Can I just, really quickly, I just want to let